Some diehards claim the latest Star Wars killed their childhood, and guess what? They're right. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's really funny, I said in my introductory video that I wasn't actually a Star Wars channel, but for some reason I can't stop making content about Star Wars right now. I promise this is going to peter off at some point, but right now it's still very much in my headspace, and because of the massive feedback I got from the last rant video that I did, we're going to kind of roll with it for a bit just to keep the conversation going. And wouldn't you know that there are still people out there saying really stupid shit about this movie and about the new franchise and the direction of Disney in general. And I thought it would be fun if you saw me rip this article apart in real time. There may be some editing for a lot of the ums and ahs, but that's to be expected. So the title of this is Star Wars The Last Jedi is the divisive Star Wars reboot fans need right now. Well, that's just great. I'm glad that someone else is telling me what I need right now. That doesn't sound authoritarian at all. Doesn't sound indicative of any of the political atmosphere in the left at all. Interesting. I wonder if I checked Annie Bundle's Twitter account. I wonder what kind of stuff I would find on there. Probably nothing pro-Trump and probably a lot of blue or pink hair. But whatever, we'll conjecture aside, we'll just tear apart her shitty article. So basically what this article boils down to is the old guard is dead, and we're glad for it, and the new guard, the diversity guard, is more in tune with the modern thinking that people have, I guess, or something. But anyway, we'll get to that as we go. So we'll just scroll down here. Now, she opens up this article with a very hilarious statement. In 2012, Disney bought Lucasfilm in a $4 billion deal that had the potential to change the entire entertainment landscape overnight. I mean, you're going to find that this person is a fan of hyperbole, so that's just something you should expect. I don't think the entire entertainment landscape changed because Disney got the rights to Star Wars, but whatever. 5 years and 3 movies later, they are on the cusp of making back that initial investment in a resurrection story for our times. For our times! Jesus! Star Wars was a spent, moribund franchise, one with no foreseeable future other than endless re-releases. Are you smoking crack? Because I don't know what sort of revisionist history you're trying to pull here, but Star Wars was more or less perfectly fine before Disney came along. There weren't new Star Wars movies being made, but we were in the midst of a very successful show with the Clone Wars. New video games and board games were still being made. Comic books were still being made. Star Wars was still very much alive and well. Okay, we weren't getting new movies, but even George Lucas, even though he said he wasn't going to do episodes 7, 8, and 9, he recently retracted that, and we know that he had written scripts for 7, 8, and 9, and that he probably would have got around to doing them at some point, if not him, then another director, still under the Lucasfilm franchise. So to say that it was spent with no foreseeable future, that is fucking ridiculous, and I can't believe you typed that out and believed it, because that's ridiculous. Endless re-releases. I'm assuming if I click this, it's going to take me to the Blu-ray releases. And just so you know, getting the Blu-rays was a big fucking deal. We got the Blu-rays because we hadn't had them before. There was a ton of footage on there. Restored films, for the most part, even though it was the shitty special edition cut. There was a ton of problems with the Blu-rays. But that's a topic for another video. Just know that there are tons of problems with that release, and we should get another release. We should get a better Blu-ray release. The fact that something is being released again doesn't mean it was a bad thing or that the franchise was spent. That's ridiculous. If I got a new restored negative from Legend or, I don't know, Top Gun or something, I would probably buy it because it would look better than the version I had seen before. I don't understand what that complaint's about. So then she says, it has been rebirthed as a 21st century mythos with a new set of films. You do realize that we had the prequels in the 21st century, right? Like, this mythos was continuing. This was an ongoing thing since the 70s. It's not like it just stopped. Like, I gotta ask, are you retarded? Because That's a stupid This whole fluff intro that you've written is really dumb. And a lot of people are going to read this and say, what the hell? Our original beloved trio of characters grew up to become the elders we respect, while our new characters give fans a new set of archetypes that respect our intelligence. So the original Star Wars characters didn't respect your intelligence. In fact, it treated you like you were a child. You just couldn't understand bigger themes than good versus evil. There was no subtext in any of these movies whatsoever. It was very plain as day. Not to, mention the fact that you really had to know a lot about the heroic journey or Joseph Campbell's works, the films that inspired this one, to really appreciate the film. But you're right. Those movies didn't respect our intelligence. These new movies with characters like Finn and Rose, these characters respect our intelligence. Characters like Rey, who just traipse through films miraculously solving problems with not a scratch on them. It is... I'm like, this is fucking ridiculous. Like, I can't believe I'm actually reading this. This winter's The Last Jedi, directed by Rian Johnson, may be the most divisive film in the canon so far. I mean, okay, yeah, you could possibly say that, but I would say the prequel films were like that at first, too. There were a lot of fans for the prequels when those came out, and eventually the majority of people realized after the refrigerator effect that, wait a minute, these movies are really retarded. Why do we like these movies? So, okay, I guess the most. Some of those who hate it claim that Johnson's films killed their childhood, and guess what? They're right. Okay, so you answered hyperbole with hyperbole. Way to go, first of all. Second of all, I don't agree with people who say this, that it killed their childhood, that this movie had done something to their child, because that's ridiculous. Those movies are immortal. They are evergreen content that will never go away. No matter what any new director does to a property, they will never take that content away. The stuff that you like, it having been made, does not just disappear. I think that the legacy of that property is tainted. I absolutely believe that, but that thing in my childhood, the experiences I had, that is very much alive. So I agree with that there is hyperbole in saying this, killed my childhood or ruined my childhood or raped my childhood, stuff like that. That's hyperbole. Obviously, it's an emotional reaction to stuff that's happening right now. And look what happened with Ghostbusters. People saw that franchise also getting bent over the barrel, and of course they feel like they were wronged in some way. Star Wars fans are no different. Star Trek fans are no different. I'm also a Star Trek fan. The new stuff being pumped out by CBS is awful. Discovery is terrible. Orville is far and away a better Star Trek show than Discovery ever wished it could be. We'll get into that a different time, though. I really want to talk about Star Trek at some point and Discovery, because I'm a huge Star Trek fan, and I hate seeing what's being done to that franchise as well. I might as well just change my channel to bitching about remakes. We'll just call it that, bitching about remakes, and or maybe that'll just be a feature on my channel. I don't know. Anyway, so she continues. When the original trilogy came out in the 70s and 80s, many current fans were children. Childhood was a time for simple answers. Good and bad were unequivocal. Wins were forever. Everyone lived happily ever after. I mean, did everyone live happily ever after? Because I feel like a lot of people died in Star Wars. When someone felt a decent impulse and followed it, they automatically became a good character, i.e. Han Solo. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Han Solo didn't just become a good character. In fact, the majority of A New Hope, he is a very neutral to unlikable character until he comes back at the Battle of the Death Star, or the Battle of Yavin. Then he's a good guy, because he had a character turn right then and there. I really, I am literally scratching my head when I read comments like this, because he didn't just automatically become a good character when he followed a good impulse. He was a very morally gray character, although he was with the rebellion, but he was in it for the money. He wanted the reward. That's why he was doing the things he was doing. He did have a character turn, though, and that's important. I don't think you can just say, oh, well, he just becomes a good character, so that fits my narrative. Fuck off. When a bad guy felt a decent impulse and followed it, they were no longer evil, i.e. Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi. Well, no shit! Fucking duh! The entire original trilogy is him being an asshole, and he has one fleeting second at the end when his son almost dies that he becomes good. And even that, can you really say he became good? All he did was save Luke. That doesn't necessarily make him a good person. He did a lot of fucked up shit. If you define him as suddenly no longer being evil at that point, I mean, that's your opinion. I don't agree with that. I still think he was a bad person. But had he lived, we would have seen him become a good person. His act in that moment was redemptive, and that's very important for the resurrection, for the hero's journey. So that, you could frame it that way, I suppose. But there's no fucking way that I would classify him as suddenly becoming no longer evil in that moment, because you have almost 3 whole films. Let's be real here, 3 whole films where Darth Vader is an ass. He is the bad guy. He is the villain. He's a villain you love, but he's the bad guy. You're completely robbing the arc of Anakin Skywalker there. You're only looking at that through the lens of Return of the Jedi, when you, thanks to the prequels, you have this huge arc, and I said this in my last video, this massive arc for this character. Star Wars was the saga of the Skywalkers, specifically Anakin, if you think about it. And he has an entire character arc that's resolved at the very end of that film when he goes to the light side to save his son. But that's just it. It was just that one moment. He didn't automatically become a good person. He was still evil. He did a good thing before he died. That was it. I mean, you can see the problems I'm having with this article. This person is framing things in a way that a lot of people online are framing things right now, in this kind of, you don't get Star Wars, I get Star Wars. And, that's hypocritical of me to say, absolutely, because I feel like I get Star Wars and they don't get Star Wars. But I feel like their reasoning is vacuous. But that's not the way life works. Good people do terrible things, and bad people do small acts of kindness. Heroes aren't perfect. They can be as weak and small as everyone else. There is no such thing as happily ever after. Wow, that is a very pessimistic way to look at things, because there can be happily ever afters. I know plenty of stories that I can cite where you have happily ever afters. And I know at the beginning of this you're saying that the first one, it's so unbelievable because there's a happily ever after. But again, was there for a lot of characters in this? I mean, I don't believe so. I think that your main characters have resolution, but you now have to put an entire galaxy back together from this oppressive 30, 40 year rule of the Empire. But I could be wrong. And of course good people do terrible things and bad people do small acts of kindness. Of course there's moral ambiguity in people. That's just no shit. But that's there in the original Star Wars too. Just because... Did you really think that every single stormtrooper that they killed was doing it because they were pure evil? They could have had just a family and they're just doing their jobs. We don't know. We go back to the clerks and, plenty of the construction workers working on the Death Star. Politics come into play. But, they were all completely killed because they were in service of the Empire. An Empire that, by the way, Luke and Biggs were going to join to get training to become better pilots. But... what do I know? When the prequels ended in 2005, Star Wars was all but dead. The reviews and fan reaction to the turn of the century films had been scathing. The only ones who had enjoyed them, it seemed, were those aged 7 to 14. Without meaning to, Lucas had taken his original childlike trilogy and made it a series that really was for kids. Okay. That's also a big misconception, I think, of the prequels. The prequels, I think, are written poorly. they are acted awfully. But the prequels have world building in them, and that to me is very important, because you mature the universe that your heroes and villains are living in, and you fill out that middle ground. The great thing about the prequels, you say that it was for kids. Yes, a lot of the stuff that's in the foreground is for kids, but a lot of the ancillary stuff, especially and in particular the politics going on, that's not for kids. That is going to go over everybody's head. You know, the reasons and the political maneuvering of Palpatine were, when you think about all that stuff that he was doing and how he was able to take control of the galaxy, it boggles the mind. You know, you see all of these set pieces come into play, and I am in total agreement with the film not depicting that in a robust way, because again, you had to do a lot of time jumps between films, and it kind of worked, it kind of didn't, but that's what we had the Clone Wars for. You see a lot more of that in the Clone Wars, and I can't, by the way, again, I've said this many times, watch the Clone Wars, because it's got moments, and it's clearly a show that kids can watch. I'm not going to say that it isn't, but there are a lot of things in there that are going to go over kids' heads. That show is very appealing to audiences of all ages. So if you're a Star Wars fan and you haven't watched the Clone Wars, please do, because it will make you appreciate the prequel era more, if anything. What's not going to make you like the films, especially 1 and 2 anymore, but it'll make you appreciate the story the arc that was trying to be told in the background of Attack of the Clones, and between that and Revenge of the Sith. I said this back in my Last Jedi video. Disney's material is made for kids. It's made for people who don't want to think too hard, absolutely. But I don't agree with you that the Star Wars was made for kids, because it wasn't. Not necessarily. It had mass appeal. Kids, teenagers, adults, senior citizens, all of these groups, all of these demographics could like Star Wars for different reasons. And I don't agree with this. It's only for kids, except for the new Star Wars. The new Star Wars sucks, it's horrible, and it's childlike in its presentation. This reorientation of Star Wars for children wasn't a complete disaster for Lucasfilm. Again, I disagree with your premise. Together with Warner Brothers, they followed up with a cartoon film, Star Wars: The Clone Wars, that begat a TV show of the same name, which then begat the current Star Wars Rebels cartoon. But in the world of 2012, where Star Trek had just been rebooted, Game of Thrones had solidified its position as HBO's new flagship show, and the Avengers had opened to worldwide box office success, a few children's cartoons weren't going to cut it. And again, this is the Clone Wars was not specifically for children. Yes, it's a kids show on a Cartoon Network, but a lot of the themes in that show are not going to be appreciated by children. They'll appreciate it on levels, but there are levels to a lot of things. You can't just say it's only appeals to kids and that's it. No, the fucking Clone Wars cartoon show had so much more expansion to the political maneuvering of Palpatine and things of that nature. I just could not see a child of 7 years old understanding any of that. Even a 14-year-old, they don't really know the political maneuvering of the Senate and the Republic and what representation is and trade deals and all this kind of stuff. The kids will not get that stuff. And the Clone Wars tackled that in very interesting, succinct ways. Some of the episodes dragged on a little bit, but I really recommend people see that show. I don't listen to this person claiming that a few children's cartoons weren't going to cut it. Okay, I mean, yes, you're right. A few cartoons are not going to earn them billions of dollars, but at least it had more heart than the garbage being put out now. This cash-in Disney crap that is being foisted upon us. So enter Disney, this person's savior, I suppose. Their first movie was to establish the new trilogy as successful. It needed to be familiar, but not too much. They turned to J.J. Abrams, who had proven his rebooting talent by remaking Star Trek. Completely fucking disagree with you there. If anything, he proved that he had a fundamental misunderstanding of Star Trek. So, no. Well, another rant, another time. Some complained that the result, The Force Awakens, was a little too familiar. An on-the-nose remake of the original film. It was. But 2015's The Force Awakens was an out-of-box office success. See, here we go, where these people equate sales with good storytelling or a good movie. It is not. They are not the same thing. You can have a movie that makes you millions of dollars that completely sucks. Look at the Transformers. Look at fucking Pirates of the Caribbean. There are so many shit movies that get made that make buku bucks that suck. And I know this may surprise you, but there have been Star Wars movies that have made millions of dollars that suck. And this movie, The Last Jedi, is one of them. The Force Awakens was one of them. The Force Awakens has some things I like about it, but it's just basically a remake with J.J. Abrams, and it's mostly bad. But again, sales of a thing do not equal thing is good. That's retarded. More importantly, it established a new model to build upon. Yeah, it really did, didn't it? It really gave us a new model to build upon. Here's a bunch of completely unlikable characters with who are well acted, by the way. They're well acted, but the storylines for them are stupid and don't go anywhere, as we've learned in The Last Jedi. So I feel like your premise is completely blown out of the water here, and anything you're going to say is not going to be true, because we know that those characters did not develop at all. I don't see how people can defend this. Star Wars has been, at its core, a story of archetypes. True, there's a hero, a princess, a scoundrel, and a villain. Our new protagonists had these features and were diverse to boot. Well, goody! Boy, we're glad that their skin tones are different colors and their eyes are different shapes. Oh boy, and their genitals are different. Man, we're just so progressive. Fuck you. No one gives a shit about that stuff. No one cares about your females being lead characters, or dudes being main characters, or your blacks being main characters, or your Asians being main characters. Nobody cares about that crap. All people care about, sensible people, all we care about are good characters. Believable characters, relatable characters, characters that have story or narrative development, character development, plot development. They go places and do things that you can relate to. None of these characters are relatable. I mean, on a couple levels, maybe a little bit, but they don't materialize. That is the criticism of The Last Jedi. The promises of The Force Awakens were not fulfilled. None of these storylines, these plot threads, went anywhere. That is the largest criticism for this movie. Not that your main character is a female. I don't fucking care if she has a bra or not. I don't give a shit if she has to sit down to pee. Don't give a shit about your characters needing to do those things. I care about the character being relatable. If the main character in this were Ahsoka, I would be singing the praises of this film from the rooftops, and please, Dave Filoni, make that happen. Please make a Star Wars standalone movie with Ahsoka, because that's what fans want. That's what I want. Ahsoka is fucking awesome, and that is how you do female character writing correctly. Princess Leia, that's how you do it correctly. Rey is not how you do it. Oh my god, of course this person had to throw in, and we're diverse to boot. Don't you know we got that box checked? Good thing. Fuck. Kill me. Please, gods, just take my soul now. The chosen one was finally female. What do you mean, finally female? Like, this was something like, now we finally get ours. See that? Girl power. We finally got a female Jedi as the main character. Doesn't it feel good? Yeah. Fuck you, boys, and your fucking Star Wars that has been predominantly dominated by male fans since 1977. But fuck you guys. Girl power. Fucking good lord. This virtue signaling is just painful. Heralding a wave of women taking the forefront in long-standing fantasy properties. Heralding. Okay. You know, these people live in a small echo chamber where their other pink-haired friends tell them that the shit that they're watching is so good, and they have to believe it. They have to believe that a Mary Sue like Rey represents them, because if they don't, what do they have? They don't have anything. They don't have anything modern that they can point to and say, wow, this is so great. Despite the fact that we've had fantastic female characters leading films forever, since films have been a thing, but never mind that. We don't have a female Jedi, so we can't compete with Du Bois. Fuck you. Fuck you. No one cares about your feminist agenda. God. Ranting. Oh man, tearing assholes is thirsty business. It blows my mind that these people are so beholden to a checklist. It's like their fucking Bible, this progressive stack. They have to have this checklist in front of them, and if it's not fulfilled, they feel like they're somehow not being represented. Listen, feminists, I said this in the last video, and I'm asking you again. Is Rey the sword you want to die on? Really? Rey, one of the most completely unrelatable characters in Star Wars canon ever? God, I'm just getting so mad. This faultless Jesus-esque character who can do no wrong. Is that real to you? Is that because just to let you know, I find that a massive turnoff. I find that just even from a perspective of a writing fan or storytelling to be a massive turnoff. I don't care about that character. In the same way that I feel like Superman is largely unrelatable. I will say that though he has depending on who's writing him. I'm not going to throw Superman under the bus like a lot of people do, because he has been written very well by some great writers, but largely his skill set just makes him a very unrelatable character as opposed to someone like Batman. In that same vein, you have Superman, Rey, versus Batman, Luke Skywalker, someone who has faults, who has demonstrated that they can't always do everything the right way. It's just laughable to me. Anyway, sorry I got so hung up on that, but I just can't stand these people with their diversity agenda trying to infect Star Wars with that crap, because Disney is already doing a perfectly fine job of it. We don't need more of this echo back and forth between you guys fapping about your diversity hires, because we don't care. All we want are good characters. That's all we care about. If you make a shitty character who is black, I'm gonna call him a shitty character. If you make a shitty character who is female, guess what? We're gonna call her a shitty character too. Alright, moving on. But these weren't the clear-cut archetypes of the original films. Rey wasn't a spoiled kid with dreams of adventure. What? Spoiled? Luke was a farm boy who had to use excuses like, I want to go pick up power converters in order to hang out with his friends. Now, I know in Heir to the Empire that they suppose that he was actually doing stuff related to moisture farming because his life there was so dull, but spoiled? He wasn't living in Jabba's palace. He was living on a moisture farm. Like, this is really? I mean, do I even have to battle this? This writes itself. She was an orphan whose need to survive accidentally leads her to the Resistance. Well, again, you can't just equate those two things like they're the same thing. Or that she was obviously the better of the two. That's fucking ridiculous. You're assuming that Luke was spoiled. What about him told you that he was spoiled? He was immature and was not the man he would become, absolutely. But spoiled? Do you know what spoiled is? Spoiled is, oh, Dad only lent me 10 grand today, this week so that I could go party with my friends. What an asshole. That's spoiled. Spoiled is, oh man, my dad promised that he'd let me buy an island, but he just said that I can only have this small estate instead. That is spoiled. Luke is the furthest thing from spoiled. He knew what a hard day's work was. Good Lord. The projection here is beyond belief. Finn wasn't the scoundrel with a heart of gold, but an abused kid trying to learn to be brave. Okay. The villains, Kylo Ren and his sidekick Hux, were just angry young men playing with fire. Oh, is that all they were? They were just angry young men playing with fire. God, I can already feel your seething hatred for men coming through this writing. This is horrible projection here. They were just angry young men playing with fire. Wow, that is fucking stupid. Not all the motifs were so changed, of course. Leia was the Mon Mothma-like wise rebellion leader, Luke was the Yoda Jedi Master, and Han Solo grew up to be, of all things, the next generation's Obi-Wan Kenobi. What? Did we watch the same movies? Because we clearly didn't. When was Luke the Yoda at any point in that movie? He was completely disregarding of Rey the entire time. In fact, she leaves without any of his knowledge or encouragement. Fucking what? You gotta be kidding me. Han Solo as Obi-Wan Kenobi? Why? Because he gives her a blaster? Because she proves that she's useful on his ship? Okay, I guess he's Obi-Wan Kenobi. Sorry, guys. It looks like we've got a new Obi-Wan, and it's dead Han Solo. Abrams' setup of this complex world complex world. Annie, this is horrible. This is one of the worst things I think I've ever read, because it is completely void of reality. What makes this a complex world? None of those characters are complex. You just admitted they are archetypes, and then invented ways for them to be interesting. And they're not that way at all. The vast majority of people who saw these films can call a spade a spade. Why can't you? It's because you want to believe that this is something for you. You want to believe that this thing is some sort of subversive, genius level filmmaking that us normies just don't understand. Like, fuck off. This is trash. And your reasoning is trash. Your premise is trash, but we're going to continue bashing this article because it's fun, and I like doing fun things. The first standalone, Rogue One, a Star Wars story, took the next step. Back in '77, characters didn't die in films, other than a few extras. Do you mean main characters, like Darth Vader? I don't... What do you mean? Like Obi-Wan Kenobi? Like Yoda? What are you talking about? They did die, and then they killed them off in these new movies too. I don't know what. You're saying that for a modern movie to be successful or good, we have to kill off the cast? That's fucking retarded. You can have a successful happily ever after with them being evergreen characters without any need to kill them off, and you could just suppose they died at some point. But wait, what? In '77, characters didn't die in films. I want you to read that line right here. Characters didn't die in films. Don't go back to the '70s and the '80s and the '90s and the 2000s and find any film with main characters who die. Don't do it, because it's not real. And as long as we don't know that that's a thing, then for this person, this touched individual, it won't be real. So don't go digging and be a fan of film. The 21st century changed all that with bloody, high turnover ensemble shows like Game of Thrones and The Walking Dead. So it took a trope that was interesting at first and then kept recycling it just because fucking example A is the way it is doesn't mean example B has to be the same thing. That's ridiculous. This article's ridiculous. Rogue One, directed by Gareth Edwards, gave Star Wars a chance to prove it could do the same. Oh, God, it's so brave of them. This was a big risk, and there were many at Disney who feared the audience response. Really? I mean, okay. I'm going to click that. Where are we going to go? Oh, The Guardian. I'm sorry to put cancer in your guys' eyes here. We're not going to read this article. But the Rogue One Disney didn't want us to see. Yeah, they had to do a lot of reshoots on that film, just so you know. But That doesn't necessarily mean that they weren't confident enough in it to put it out there. We're seeing that right now with the Han Solo movie. I think that movie may end up being a dumpster fire because nearly the whole film was reshot, but it may be good because Rogue One was reshot, and largely I like Rogue One. As a result, the movie was a mess, a mashup of 6 partial films with far too many cooks. You're talking about The Last Jedi, right? Still, the ending maintained the new model's main lesson. Changing the world is a slow process, and although most of us won't live to see the ultimate victory, the Forgotten Fallen are still critical rungs on the ladder. Of course, no shit. I could imply that from a lot of the stuff that I watched in the original trilogy. It is a period of civil war. That line alone tells you that people are dying. I know this probably went over your head, but just so you know, it was there from the beginning. It wasn't depicted on screen, I know, in that way, and it was great that Rogue One did a new thing with it, but new thing doesn't always mean good, and I would not equate the success, in my opinion, of Rogue One to The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, because those movies suck. So, on we go! The Last Jedi takes this far more grown-up message all the way to its logical endpoint. Right, we're going to make a shitty movie. That's the logical endpoint. We're going to take a shitty character development and we're going to make a shitty film. Our new characters once again rebuff easy categorization. No they don't. I can easily categorize every single person in this movie. You just said it earlier they were archetypes, so you could too. This person is insane. Did they just learn how to write yesterday? Just because 2 of our heroes undertake a daring mission doesn't automatically mean they'll succeed. Just because the rebellious characters thinks he's right. Because the rebellious character thinks he's right doesn't mean he knows what's going on. Right, because that was such a logical plot point in the movie, right? The captain with the pink hair on our ship, who we've somehow never seen before, is going to withhold information from their best pilot, the person who fucking drives an X-Wing like Vin Diesel drives a Mustang. We're going to completely hide the plan from that guy because he's too volatile. Okay, alright, sure. Okay. Let's see, where was I? Shit. The smuggler doesn't have a heart of gold, but his pockets are lined with it by the end of the film. And he was actually one of the only characters I kind of like, even though they didn't do anything with him, because he represented something that is true of Star Wars, that Han Solo represented, that Boba Fett and the bounty hunters represented, that there was this morally gray center to the entire galaxy, and that the only paragons of good were the Jedi, and the only exemplars of evil were the Sith. But even that's not necessarily true. So, again, that's okay. What are you talking? I don't understand what the point you're making there is. He doesn't have a heart of gold, but his pockets are lined with it. You just wanted to go with some clever wordplay in that sentence? What point were you making? This time, our older heroes are allowed complexity, too. Okay. Luke is a man of many sides, a hermit in the middle of nowhere who chose to go to a place where fish caretakers wait upon the Jedi like a luxury hotel. No, they take care of the island. They don't take care of Luke. They take care of what's there. Try to follow along. Even as brain dead as that movie was, I'm surprised that you couldn't just get that alone. He's self-righteous yet has made mistakes with galaxy-level consequences. Again, completely stupid plot point in that movie. Luke should never have been the way that he was in that film. And I completely disagree with anyone who thinks that he should have turned out that way. So, difference of opinion. The simple hero he was all those decades ago, right, he was just simple. He was just, he had no arc whatsoever. These are the same people who think Luke was simple. And I completely disagree with that, and I will debate anybody who thinks that that's the case. One he even bought into, to his everlasting regret. Oh god, just hearing about this movie being retold to me makes me want to throw up. Leia is still a self-rescuing princess, but now she's showing layers of Jedi ability we've never seen and putting down mutinies from her sickbed. Right. Yes, we that's what we wanted. We wanted immaculate capability to solve all the problems in the film. The arc of the universe may bend towards justice, but we have to jump up and down to move it. Ugh. Cringe. In May of 2018, the next Star Wars standalone will arrive, focusing heavily on the backstory of Han Solo. Then in 2019, they will follow up with the now moved to December Episode 9, which will complete Lucas's original Skywalker saga. Wrong! Lucas completed his Star Wars saga with Revenge of the Sith. So, no, this will thankfully end the Disney saga, which is what most people will refer to this as. I'm going to just put that out there. Will these movies continue to push this more mature narrative? More mature. Do you hear yourself? Do you hear how ridiculous this is? I want you to go back and watch that movie, and I want you to point to every single time they forced a stupid gag into your face. A fucking porg that emotes like a cartoon. What? The plots that don't go anywhere. Characters who just miraculously have ability like Rey. Villains that don't mean anything. Ships that run out of fuel and can't catch up in space. Okay, I understand this movie must have been challenging for you, but for a lot of us out there, this was base level shit and we reject it. Will the more mature narrative forward? Jesus Christ. Like Rogue One, the Han Solo, a Star Wars story film, is trying to change something about the originals. Something that made Disney executives nervous all over again, to the point that they replaced directors midstream. They didn't do it just because of that. They did it because those directors were tonally off from what Disney wanted it to be. And now I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know which version I would prefer in this case, because everything indicates to me that Disney doesn't know what the fuck it's doing. They do not have any faith in their directors, and whatever is there is garbage. J.J. Abrams' movie was crap. Rian Johnson's movie was crap, and I have no doubt that this next movie will be crap because the setup for that film has been completely botched. These movies are being made as if they are standalone films instead of saga films, when they should have just been their own separate trilogy anyway. But they're not. They are literally titled Episode 7, Episode 8, and Episode 9. If you were going to continue within the vein of the Skywalkers, and just to kill them off to prop up your Mary Sues, you've completely lost the plot. This isn't what people want. Ugh. God, I just get so angry about stupid people. Abrams will return for Episode 9. Woo! We can only hope the result is slightly less messy than Rogue One, and at least as subversive as The Last Jedi. There you go, guys. There you go again. Remember, if you don't get this movie, it's because you just didn't see the subtext. There's just too much subversiveness for your feeble minds to understand. This movie is amazingly complex, even though nobody can articulate why that is the case. And even when they can, I have found a couple arguments that have been coherent and have tried to lay out why it was complex. I have immediately destroyed those battleships with little to no effort by pointing out the logical fallacies therein. And again, I welcome discourse. I welcome you to challenge anything I say about these movies being bad, because I think, if anything, this all comes down to opinion, and I greatly disagree with the people who defend this trite, tepid bullshit of a movie. Rian Johnson has been put in charge of creating the next trilogy, the first not to feature Skywalkers at all. I don't care. I don't care. Johnson's Last Jedi killed our childhoods because 2017 wasn't a good place for children. What? What do you mean? Are you alluding to Trump being elected president? Is that what you mean? I don't understand what you're getting at here. This almost sounds like you're projecting your insecurities onto other people. But never mind, that's just me supposing. But it's likely the next decade won't be either. We have to grow up and take our place in history. With Johnson at the helm, it seems like Star Wars could finally be coming along with us for the ride. It may not be the reboot everyone wanted, but it's the one we deserve. Oh my god, this was terrible. So if you had as much fun laughing at this garbage as I did, let me know in the comments, like the video, say something as well. Subscribe to the channel, that'd be cool too. I'm going to keep doing more stuff. I'm really trying to build the brand here. But it's the one we deserve, guys. This is what we deserve. You know what? I in a way, I agree with her, but not for the reasons that she thinks. I agree that this is the film we deserve because we have allowed this festering cancer to metastasize within our fandom. And that cancer is social justice bullshit. And these people are so far removed from reality. You just have to push them aside and create within the space. You know, we have the original trilogy, we have the Clone Wars, we have all these great games, and I firmly believe that we are going to have creatives come back into Star Wars who are going to flush this diversity crap down the toilet and give us characters that we actually care about. Again, we don't care that the characters are female. We don't care that they're black or they're Asian or Indian or Aquarian or Kryptonian. We don't care about that stuff. All we care about are relatable characters with arcs that service the story. And if they don't, people are going to call that crap out like I'm doing here. Your article was terrible, Annie Bundle, who has been blogging professionally since 2010. I don't know that I would be super proud about putting that as a byline on anything. This movie was trash, and the more people that defend it, the more I'm going to call it out. I mean, and you know, it's fine if you like this movie. Good for you. But stop trying to pass this crap off like it's some highbrow, smarter than you Stanley Kubrick experience, because it is absolutely not. This is the most fundamental aim camera at things, watch things explode filmmaking that you can have in 2017. This is Michael Bay with lightsabers. Yeah, that's what this is. I know you don't want to believe it because there's tits at the lead and she has a lightsaber and oh look, there's the black guy. He's doing stuff with the Asian. I know you've got all these fucking check boxes checked and that is enough for you, but people like me who give a shit about story, who give a shit about character development, who care about plot, who care about this franchise, we're gonna keep coming at you whether you like it or not. And that's fine. You have your opinions. That's great. I don't ever want to shut that down. I welcome discourse. And far and away, my experience so far has been that people do not like this movie, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on YouTube or Twitter, doesn't matter. Everyone seems to hate this movie. People I've talked with in real life, when I got out of that theater, a lot of people in my theater, I don't know if this happens at your theater, but maybe my town's just small enough for this to happen, but a lot of us kind of congregated outside the theater there in the cold of December, and we just felt so downtrodden that movie happened. Everyone was just kind of like, how did you feel about it? Like, I hated this movie, guys. Should I be the first to say it? There was this very uneasy moment after the film where everyone was kind of just like, this movie was terrible. And then we went up to Steak and Shake, which is kind of a tradition of me and my friends. We watch a film, then we go to Steak and Shake, and we discuss the film. And we were talking about the movie, and the more we talked about it, the more the plot holes kept jumping out at us, the more the banality of this movie was made more apparent. And it's funny that I didn't hear a lot of people at that time saying, this movie was amazing, best Star Wars ever. No, the backlash was pretty immediate, and the fact that you have to write up these contrived, completely vacuous articles to prop up your position is bullshit, because there's nothing of substance in here. You just asserted a bunch of things without anything to back them up. You linked to things in a very, you were stretching on many of the lead-ins to the points you were making. I'm not here to critique your writing, even though it was pretty fucking abysmal, but your article was trash, and I completely disagree with your opinion. To get you guys caught up, I am going to be doing, like I said, another video where I want to reimagine The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi to kind of set it on a path that I think would have been a little bit more entertaining, a little bit more believable for Star Wars fans. And That's going to take some time because I want to put some actual effort into that, so bear with me, but that video will be made. I don't know how I want to do it. I'm torn between just doing a rant style video like this and from doing a very sort of scripted, a lot of, you know, imagery and things like that, doing a higher quality video. Let me know in the comments below which one you would rather see, because I'm kind of torn between the two. I don't know how I want to do that just yet. But anyway, guys, thanks for joining me. We'll return with more shit posting about this film in the future, I'm sure. But thanks for stopping by. Peace out.